What if one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world never actually existed? Imagine a lush green mountain rising out of the burning Mesopotamian desert, trees cascading down massive terraces, water flowing uphill against gravity, a paradise built by human hands nearly 2,600 years ago. A place so extraordinary that ancient writers couldn't stop talking about it. The Greeks called it one of the 7 wonders of the world. Historians described it in vivid, almost unbelievable detail. And yet, not a single trace has ever been found. No confirmed ruins, no inscriptions, no undeniable proof. So what really happened to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? Were they real? Were they built somewhere else? Or were they nothing more than an ancient story, repeated so many times that it became accepted as truth? Today on History Unveiled, we uncover the full story behind one of history's greatest mysteries. The origin, the legend, the engineering, the disappearance, and the theories that could completely change what we think we know. Our story begins in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, one of the earliest cradles of civilization. This was a land between 2 rivers, where some of the first cities in human history rose from the earth. It was here that writing was invented, laws were codified, and empires were born. At the heart of this world stood the mighty city of Babylon. Babylon was more than just a city. It was a symbol of power, wealth, and human ambition. Its towering walls were said to be among the strongest ever built. Its temples reached toward the heavens. Its streets were carefully planned, filled with markets, shrines, and grand buildings. And at its peak stood a ruler whose name would become forever tied to the legend of the Hanging Gardens, Nebuchadnezzar II. Nebuchadnezzar ruled during the 6th century BCE and is remembered as one of the most powerful kings of his time. He expanded his empire through military conquest, but his true legacy lies in what he built. He transformed Babylon into one of the most magnificent cities the ancient world had ever seen. Massive fortifications surrounded it. Temples dominated its skyline. And the famous Ishtar Gate, decorated with deep blue glazed bricks and intricate animal reliefs, stood as a testament to Babylon's wealth and artistic brilliance. But according to legend, his most remarkable creation wasn't built to display power. It was built for love. Ancient sources tell us that Nebuchadnezzar married Amytis of Media, a woman from a mountainous region far from Babylon. Her homeland was filled with green hills, forests, and fresh air. Babylon, in contrast, was flat, dry, and dominated by heat and dust. Far from everything she knew, Amytis is said to have grown homesick, and so the king made a decision that would echo through history. He would recreate her homeland, not with a simple garden, but with something never seen before. He would build an artificial mountain. According to ancient descriptions, the Hanging Gardens were unlike anything the world had ever seen. Writers like Strabo and Diodorus Siculus describe a massive, multi-level structure made of terraces stacked high into the sky. Each level rested on enormous stone columns, forming a series of platforms that rose one above the other. But these weren't empty platforms. They were filled with life. Deep layers of soil were placed on each terrace, thick enough to support not just plants, but full-sized trees. Exotic vegetation from across the empire was brought in and cultivated. Towering trees provided shade. Vines draped over the edges. Flowers added bursts of color. From a distance, the greenery appeared to spill downward, almost as if it were floating in mid-air. This is why they were called the Hanging Gardens, not because they were suspended, but because the plants seemed to hang over the structure. It would have been a breathtaking sight. A green oasis rising out of a desert landscape, a man-made paradise. But the real wonder of the gardens wasn't just how they looked, it was how they functioned. Because creating a garden in the desert is difficult. Creating a multi-level garden filled with trees is something else entirely. And keeping it alive? That would require an extraordinary level of engineering. Ancient writers describe a sophisticated irrigation system that drew water from the nearby Euphrates River. But this wasn't simple irrigation. The water had to be lifted from the river up to the highest terraces of the structure. That means the builders needed a way to move water upward, against gravity. Some historians believe this was done using a system of chains and buckets, continuously rotating to carry water upward. Others suggest the use of an early mechanical device similar to what we now call the Archimedes screw. If true, this would mean that the engineers behind the gardens developed advanced water-lifting technology centuries before it was formally recorded in history. Think about that. Water flowing uphill in the ancient world. It sounds almost impossible, and yet, according to the descriptions, it was happening every single day. But as incredible as all of this sounds, there's a problem. A very big problem. None of the people who described the Hanging Gardens ever actually saw them. The earliest known account comes from Berossus, writing centuries after the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Later writers like Strabo and Diodorus added more detail, but they were relying on earlier sources, not direct observation. So everything we know about the Hanging Gardens comes from second-hand, or even third-hand accounts. That alone raises serious questions, because when something is described in great detail, but no one has actually seen it, we have to ask, how much of it is real? When archaeologists began excavating Babylon in the modern era, they expected to find answers. They uncovered incredible structures, palaces, walls, temples, and entire sections of the ancient city. But when it came to the Hanging Gardens, they found nothing. No structure that matches the descriptions. No irrigation system of that scale. No definitive evidence. And perhaps most surprising of all, no mention of the gardens in Babylonian records. This is significant, because Nebuchadnezzar II was known for documenting his achievements in great detail. He left behind inscriptions describing his building projects, his conquests, and his devotion to the gods. But nowhere does he mention the Hanging Gardens. Not once. For something that would have been one of the greatest architectural achievements of his reign, that silence is hard to ignore. So what does this mean? Historians have proposed several possibilities. One idea is that the gardens did exist, but they simply haven't been discovered yet. Babylon is a vast archaeological site, and much of it remains unexcavated. It's possible that the remains of the gardens are still buried beneath layers of earth, waiting to be found. Another possibility is that the gardens existed, but not in Babylon. And this is where the mystery takes a fascinating turn. About 300 miles north of Babylon stood another great city, Nineveh. Nineveh was the capital of the powerful Assyrian Empire, and its king, Sennacherib, was known for his ambitious building projects. Unlike Babylon, we actually have detailed records from his reign. In his inscriptions, Sennacherib describes creating a vast garden complex, one that he calls a wonder for all peoples. He explains how water was transported across great distances using aqueducts. He describes systems designed to raise water to higher elevations. And archaeological discoveries in Nineveh have confirmed these claims. Massive aqueducts have been uncovered, advanced water channels have been mapped, and relief carvings depict lush, cultivated landscapes. All of this closely matches the descriptions of the Hanging Gardens. So what happened? According to researcher Stephanie Daly, the answer may lie in confusion. Ancient writers, particularly the Greeks, may have mixed up the cities of Babylon and Nineveh. Over time, as stories were passed down and retold, the location of the gardens may have been incorrectly attributed. And just like that, a wonder of the world was moved from one city to another through history itself. Whether the gardens stood in Babylon, Nineveh, or nowhere at all, their story has survived for more than 2,000 years. And that tells us something important. The Hanging Gardens are more than just a structure. They are an idea. They represent the human desire to create beauty in impossible places, to build something extraordinary, to transform the environment itself. They symbolize power, love, innovation, and imagination. And perhaps that's why the story has endured, because even if the details are uncertain, the idea is unforgettable. So where does that leave us? The Hanging Gardens remain one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. They may still be waiting to be discovered. They may have already been found, just under a different name and location, or they may never have existed at all. But regardless of the truth, their legend continues to inspire curiosity, debate, and wonder. And maybe that's what matters most. The Hanging Gardens remind us that history is not always clear. It is shaped by stories, interpretations, and sometimes mistakes. But every mystery brings us closer to understanding the past, even if we never find all the answers. So the next time you hear about the 7 wonders of the ancient world, remember this. One of them might not be where we think it is, or might not have existed at all. And yet, it remains one of the most powerful and enduring stories ever told. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient mysteries, make sure to subscribe to History Unveiled, because the past is full of secrets, and we're just getting started.